Follow us on Twitter at 90s Percentile. And if you'd like more content from We Studios, check us out at weepodcast.com, WEE podcast.com, where you can find our Simpsons podcast, Worst Episode Ever, and our movie commentary series, Sync Points.
And if you want to support the show, you can help us out by clicking our Amazon links. That's at weepodcast.com. You click the links and shop like you normally would, and we get a small percentage.
Thanks, guys.
60 minutes are on the clock, and straight out of We Studios, this is 90s Percentile. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack, and we're talking everything 90s and maybe everything before and after.
Yes, and today we are joined with a guest. Miss Lanny Harms is here, host of Late Night with Lanny. How are you, Lanny?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're pulling you out of your natural environment. It's quite early in the morning. Hope you can...
Like 11:30
that's
noon.
early.
Yeah, that's pretty early. The people listening to this don't get out of bed.
Compared to late night, I would say 11 in the morning is early.
I would say so.
That is true.
It's earlier than early night.
Yeah. So what is Late Night with Lanny? So our listeners know.
Yes, Late Night with Lanny is a comedy variety show that I host as like a late night host. I usually start every show with a pre-written monologue, and then I have a character stand up, come up and do a solo act, and then I try to get either a sketch or a web series or something new for the middle act, and then I have an interview with a random person from the audience from some sort of topic that is relevant that week. And then my improv team does a set based on that interview to round out the night.
And that is, where can people see that if they want to see it?
That is at the Pit Loft. It is on 29th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue.
Right here in New York City.
NYC. We love our comedy. Yay.
There's so much comedy. The Mets said they're the funniest team in baseball because they don't win any times. Okay, so anyway, it is time. It is time to actually jump into our first topic. Are you guys ready for this?
No, I want to hear more of your New York Mets guy.
All right, the Mets are going to go all the way this year, Jackie boy.
All right, now we can
I
do
would
our
like the
first topic.
topic.
Okay, here we go. Our first topic coming out of the bag, and it is Crossfire.
Crossfire.
You don't get caught up in the crossfire.
Who suggested this?
I don't know.
I have a feeling
this
it was
is one of
me.
our proto.
I have a feeling I might have suggested Crossfire.
Your name is next to it, but yeah. So
yeah.
did you suggest Crossfire, Jack?
Either one of my friends did, or I don't know.
Right.
I might have suggested it because Crossfire is probably the most 90s board game of all time.
So let's quickly
Lanny?
explain.
I was worried this was going to happen. I don't have much.
You don't know anything about Crossfire.
I think I know the commercial.
We'll get you there.
Yeah.
So Crossfire, I'm assuming they mean Crossfire the game and not the CNN debate show. I believe it's called Crossfire.
Or maybe like they actually just meant Crossfire when you shoot from
just
two
like when
different...
you're shooting, yeah. But Crossfire was a game where I had the game, so I can speak with some expertise and knowledge. You had two guns facing each other on a board, and you would shoot ball bearings to try and get these two bigger ball bearings into the goal on the opposite side. So it was kind of like an air hockey thing, but instead of using air hockey paddles, you're using a gun to shoot little balls.
Right, the little metal ball bearings are your ammo, but the two pucks, if you want to
they
call
were
them
bigger
that,
ball bearings with like plastic things
I bet
on them.
maybe the best analog would be like air hockey, except instead of using a panel to hit the pucks in, you're shooting ball bearings at them.
You know, I just said that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I want to get at is it was actually kind of smart the way they designed it. There was, I don't know, at least the version I had, there was two pucks. The purple one, there was a triangle and a star.
And a star, yeah.
And the star was interesting because if you hit it at a certain angle, it could either feed the ball back to you and replenish your ammo, or
you could put some English on it.
Yeah, exactly. Or you actually had to have some strategy. Of course, the people playing it were 11-year-olds who had no strategy.
Right. I just wanted to shoot the thing.
Yeah. But if you actually, I was thinking about this. I don't know why. I was thinking about this literally yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And I did not suggest Crossfire. If I did, it was months ago.
Okay.
I guess Crossfire is just always on my mind.
Apparently.
It's just like that Ray Charles song.
Yep,
Crossfire on my
always
mind. Yeah. No, you had to. The strategy was when you hit the puck. We'll call it the puck.
Sure.
To get you really wanted to make sure you're not giving the other guy your ammo, which was a really nice piece of strategy.
Yeah.
So
if you were really good, you could try and shoot a ball bearing up the other guy's gun.
They can say up his butt.
Well, you could try that too.
That way you would really
have to break it off of the board to do that. It was attached to the board. But fun fun fact about my particular Crossfire
Yeah.
game, we
Yes.
kept it in my basement. It was under a chair, and a large group of bugs moved in, and they lived in the Crossfire game, and that's when we stopped playing it.
Yesterday, this is off topic already, but
Yeah,
just
okay.
yesterday I was going through HBO, and there was a pilot for a show I had no idea was coming. I'm kind of out of the loop on entertainment news a bit, so
Okay.
I'm sure it's not my. It's not. It's
Was it
my
The
fault.
Sopranos?
No, it was The Sopranos. It's
Oh,
this
man.
mafia show starring a James Gandolfini.
And the Mets are gonna take it this year.
I think this James Gandolfini guy is going places.
Okay, well, well, I'll tell you after. I'll tell you after,
Oh,
Jack.
no, I don't like that. No, so this show is called Animals, and the first episode was about rats.
I haven't seen it yet. I didn't know
Yeah,
the
it was-
first episode was
it's
out
like
yet.
a documentary kind of show.
No, it's
an
animated,
yeah.
a comic book kind of style,
never
like
mind.
comic strip style. I guess every episode is different animals, and this one was about rats with one scene with police horses. And they're just like really neurotic rats, and it's very low key. It's very modern stand up kind of humor. All the voices, a lot of the voice talent are like your typical comedy Bang Bang and all those like the comedians that are up right now.
Right, well,
Nathan
the
for you. is
Duplass
in it.
brothers are
Duplass
producers of it,
producers,
so
yeah.
they brought all their friends
What
in.
channel is this on?
HBO.
HBO, yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to throw out a solid recommendation. Haven't seen the second episode. I was actually really disappointed after the first scene that I thought the whole episode was about these two rats that open the show, and apparently it's no, every episode's like a self-contained
Yeah,
thing.
I think it's like skits.
So I'm sure
kind of.
the next episode will be great. I would have followed those rats. It was a really funny premise.
I would have followed them to the ends of the earth.
to your Crossfire and your
To-
Crossfire and your
Yeah,
where
was-
things went to die.
Was the thing that made you think that was just the rats
bugs.
and
Yeah,
the bugs?
the bugs
Oh,
in
okay.
his thing because the rats live in a wall in an apartment,
Of
and
course.
just like the bugs lived in
My Crossfire machine. It wasn't really a machine, but I have some breaking news here.
Oh.
This is groundbreaking.
James Gandolfini has died.
James Gandolfini has died. It's not breaking so much as it is
It
many,
is
many
still
months
hurts.
old. But I looked up Crossfire on Wikipedia, and despite the fact that the article needs to be rewritten entirely to comply with Wikipedia's quality standards,
And that was in January 2013 that
Yes.
reference was made. So it's been 3 years.
it's been a
Wikipedia
while.
editors.
I can confirm that Crossfire began in 1971.
Ooh, the late 70s.
The late 70s.
So this is not 90s.
So is it really 90s? I think
So-
the most 90s was the commercial with the
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
kids engaged in what seemed to be, at the time, life or death combat over Crossfire because there was fire around them. They seemed to be in some sort of floating void dimension because they were not in reality. They were just...
Void dimensions were the dimension of the 1990s.
They really were.
Maybe Dimension X early on in
Dimension
the
X,
90s,
yeah.
but Voids kind of took over as the dimension of the decade.
Yes. It makes me think of, this is an obscure reference, but it's relevant to the 90s. Do you remember the Power Rangers episode where Tommy, the Green Ranger, came along?
Yes.
Green with Evil. It was a 5-part series.
Oh, when he turned bad for that
yeah.
little while?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm, that was bad.
Right,
I felt so bad for
He
Kimberly.
almost started
He
bad.
started bad,
He started
yeah.
good, but corrupt.
Look, guys, I hope that someone is suggesting Green with Evil, so we will get into the,
Yeah,
the
we'll get-
specifics of that at a later
Okay.
date. But the point I wanted to make was, at one point, Jason, the Red Ranger, is kidnapped and brought to a different dimension, which is clearly just a black curtain.
It was a black room
couldn't move.
with a fog machine.
Yeah, exactly. It was a fog machine and a black curtain.
Void dimensions,
They
man.
did the
It was-
best
void
with
dimension.
what they had.
They did. It
Okay,
was-
and they did a great job. Power Rangers was a
They,
fantastic
they
show.
just
was.
announced Elizabeth Banks is going to play Rita Repulsa
Yeah, I don't
What?
know what
on the
that's...
Power Rangers movie. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what that's
Elizabeth
about.
Banks is going to be in a Power Rangers movie?
Yeah,
They
as
are
the
stepping
Asian
up their
woman,
game.
the old Asian woman villain.
Yes.
It's a bit of a white,
It's a bit of a departure
Yeah.
from the source material, but it's we'll see how it goes. You know, maybe she'll do a little singing, a little acapella.
Oh, because
she
she did Pitch
produces
Perfect. Yeah,
and
yeah.
Pitch Perfect.
No, that excites me. That they, I mean, I
Yeah, I
kinda,
bet it does.
I kind of wish they got an Asian actress to play Rita Repulsa.
Right.
Even though Repulsa sounds more Italian to me.
Yeah.
Rita Repulsa.
Talk about my mother, Rita Repulsa.
But also, her brother was Rito Repulso, which is a very European
Yeah.
romantic language thing to
Yeah.
change the masculine.
Yep.
But I'm
Although
now.
Rito is not really a name. I had never heard it aside from Power Rangers.
You don't know any Ritos in normal life?
Hey, I'm Rito.
You're just going to do this
Yeah.
Italian voice?
Yes, I am.
And they changed their names from the Japanese names in the original show, right?
yes,
I'm sure.
her name was Bandora, actually. in
Wow,
the
you know
original.
that.
I know a thing or two or about a thing or
About
two.
the 90s?
About the 90s, about ZU Rangers.
The interesting thing about Elizabeth Banks is now I'm curious who they're going to cast. They've already cast the teenagers; they're all unknowns, the Power Rangers.
Right, yeah.
But I'm interested who might be Zordon. Who might be Lord Zed if he comes into the mix. Maybe it looks like they're going to try to do some stunt casting. Yeah, because that's like the most fun of these like Hunger Games. Like what a cast Hunger Games has.
Yeah.
Like, I like that they go out of their way with all these like young adult novels and these reboots of just trying to get big A-list and Oscar-winning actors to just be
like Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
Oscar winner Josh Hutcherson.
Like Transformers 3 has what's her face from Fargo, the Coen brothers' wife. One of the Coen brothers' wife. They
Frances
don't co-marry her.
McDormand.
Yeah.
They didn't both marry Frances McDormand.
I didn't know she was married to one of the Coen brothers.
Yeah, she's not
she
a
is.
very talented actress. That's why she gets all the roles in those Coen brothers movies.
Excuse me,
You're
sir.
not
you
allowed
are,
to joke
you are
about
full
that.
of baloney.
It's all nepotism.
You are full
Did
of
you
baloney.
hear
my
her accent?
God, you
Her
can
Italian
stop.
accent in Fargo was terrible.
Hey, I'm a cop here in Fargo.
terrible.
My name is Francis McDormand. And
Anyway,
did you murder somebody?
Anyway, like her and John Malkovich were in Transformers 3, and it's just like, what's going on here? What is
Really,
this?
John
What-
Malkovich? Does
Yeah.
he need money?
Anyway, maybe Malkovich could be Zordon. That would be kind
Okay,
of
that would be
That
awesome.
would be really cool.
I'm into that.
get me some teenagers with attitude.
I just hope that they play Crossfire in the new movie
Oh,
because
yes.
let's bring our 90s
Crossfire.
things
Yeah,
together
so
here.
obviously it was
Okay.
the late 70s, 1971. I think with this Wikipedia article is definitely lacking.
It is.
The
It really
editors
does
were
need to
right
be
to point
rewritten.
out
Yeah.
the lack of quality. But I bet you it just kind of fell out of favor early on and probably was a non-factor in the 80s. And then the 90s, they just brought it back. I don't think it had.
Right.
I don't think it was tied just to the Void Dimension commercial.
I
think-
don't know. I think that was a very popular
No, the
commercial.
commercial-
I
Yeah,
was seeing
I
it
know
all
the
the time.
commercial.
The
I don't know
commercial
the
is what
game.
made the game popular.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm saying, I bet you there weren't like lame commercials before that. I just don't think there were any commercials before that. They
We can't-
they're like, let's bring Crossfire back on the shelves, and then they just hit it out of the park with the advertising.
What do you think what does an 80s Crossfire commercial look like? We're not in a void dimension, so we're like
You
in
have
somewhere.
Duran doing the theme song. Crossfire, fire across.
And they're playing against each other. The two members of Duran Duran are playing Crossfire with each other while singing like "Hungry Like the Wolf" or something.
They've got like really long.
It's
like,
the 80s. We're playing a board game. That was the theme song. That's why it didn't sell very well.
no, they really shouldn't have had you write the theme song.
You
were
I
only
was,
2
I
years
was
old.
young. I was very green in this industry, and they've never invited me back.
Play the commercial, can we? Or-
Yeah, well, we could throw that on just in case people
'Cause
have
we
no
keep
idea. We'll
referring
definitely
to it.
on our
We'll put it-
Facebook,
we'll put it- yeah.
on our Twitter, maybe
On our
Facebook's
subreddit.
better with YouTube links and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then subreddit. We'll throw a link out to it. But real quick, I want to mention my personal Crossfire experience. I had the game obviously probably same time as you.
Sure.
Eventually stopped playing. At some point, again, I got it in my head that I really wanted to play it in college, so
Right.
I bought it. I was surprised it was only $20 at Toys R Us.
Oh, are they still? Well, at least at
this
that
was-
time they were
yeah,
still.
I'm an
selling
old
it.
man.
Yeah, I
The
know.
college was a long time ago.
You didn't graduate college this week? Yeah, no.
Yeah, so
okay.
I buy the game. I bring it to my tiny apartment in Soho, which was it was a 1-bedroom apartment that I split with a roommate. So there was no living room. It was just my bedroom was my room, and then I was lucky enough to have a kitchen and a bathroom. And it was a very, very small apartment. And I realized I also didn't have a table or anything. I realized I had nowhere to set up the Crossfire. There was no
Wow.
spot in my apartment where two people could feasibly be on either.
Right.
It was basically like that Seinfeld episode with the pool table.
Yeah, right. So did you have to take it to the park and like play next to those guys hustling for chess? You're playing Crossfire.
No, but there was those. I did have a park across the street from me in Soho that had 2 tables with built-in chess boards, and
You were gonna say a built-in Crossfire machine.
No, and one time, me and friend of the show Tom Whalen brought Scrabble out, and we were playing Scrabble out there, and 2 teenage girls walked by and said, "Yeah, they're playing Scrabble. That's so fucking gay." So
Nice.
yeah, no.
If you were
so-
playing Crossfire, they would have
No,
been
so what I
very
did
impressed.
was I brought the Crossfire to my friend's apartment, which it was 6 guys all living together, with 1 bathroom, and it was basically like a frat
That sounds
house.
like hell.
Yeah.
And
it
I
was-
lived in a frat
Yeah,
house.
and they had the best parties. It was that kind of place.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'll bring it here. I always go over there to hang out with these guys. It'll be great at parties, and people playing beer pong. We always had beer pong. So I was like, oh, we'll do Drunken Crossfire. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sounds like
that
fun.
lasted 10 minutes of a party before it just got completely destroyed, like beer spilled on it.
Yeah,
and
of course.
The ball bearings all, the ball bearings
They're
would
all
always
gone.
go flying off the board.
2 criminals who were trying to break in slipped on the ball bearings.
We did thwart their
That's good.
their crime.
That's some Home Alone stuff there.
That's a good secondary use for the Crossfire game.
So I just remember that game just got destroyed by
Yeah.
it was like locusts came and just came onto the Crossfire and
just
then pulled
bones
away.
left.
And there was just Crossfire bones left.
Crossfire bones. I thought for a second the end of that story was going to be that you were sitting alone in a corner playing Crossfire by yourself. So I'm not glad it got destroyed, but I'm glad, there was at least some level of enjoyment. I just want to point out real quick that on Amazon, they are selling Crossfire for $300.
Wow.
And there's only one left in stock, so should we buy it right now?
So is it not on shelves?
It looks like it is the old Crossfire game. Like, I remember this
90s
box,
one.
the 90s one.
I mean, the one
Yeah.
I bought in college was identical to the one I had growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the same exact one. So if we have $300 between
I don't
us,
think I ever played
I can
this
contribute
game.
a dollar
how
if you
did it
guys have $2.99.
How did it go from $20 to $300 in 10 years?
I have to imagine that it is out of print, and this
Yeah.
is like a classic vintage. It's sad that Crossfire is a vintage
This
board
would be a
game,
great
but
app
I guess so.
game, no? Or like a video game? where
Crossfire?
Yeah, because all the app games that you play on your phone seem to be very tap heavy, like
Oh.
Crossroad
Right, so if you like-
and Crossy Road. Do Crossy Fire.
Do Crossfire.
Just do Crossy Fire and just I mean, right? Am I wrong? I don't play a lot of these.
Okay.
I don't
games,
play any games on my
but I see people. It seems to be very like tap 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 tap.
Yeah,
Yes,
when
people
they're
on the
jumping.
train.
and
Yeah,
those
So I feel like a
coins.
Crossfire
Like those
game
temple
would be
run
great.
games.
You
Yeah.
do you either play CPU, you do a Bluetooth connection or an internet connection with a second player, and you get a set amount of ball. I'm sure you could translate that game to a video very easily.
So
right?
here's what we're
and
gonna
then you
do.
never lose the balls. The gun never gets jammed. No bugs living in your iPhone.
Well, I would prefer to have bugs living in it. It's not Crossfire if there's no bugs living inside of it. To me, we should branch out into the app space, and we're gonna make our slap bracelet thing. We're gonna make our Crossfire game.
We have a
got list
non-compete
now.
clause with our advertiser Jock.com. We can't do it.
Well, obviously we'd use them.
Yeah, no, I feel like that would be a great app.
Yeah.
I don't have $300 to buy this game. I would like, if we do eventually buy a real studio for our podcast,
Yeah.
it would be like basically the apartment from Big, and we would just have like
Yes.
video.
As long as we get that giant piano.
And we need a Crossfire table for
Guys,
sure.
I think we're thinking too small. Apps are great, but you know what we need? A Crossfire movie. Okay? How they made Battleship into a movie and everyone saw it and it was amazing. So let's do a Crossfire movie that's just as good as the Battleship
We can
movie.
get James Gandolfini to play.
He'll play one of the ball
He'll
bearings.
play the ball bearing.
He's the one who dreams of something more. Why are we engaged in a battle?
He's just like I want to take out that puck.
You want to fucking take out that puck?
That would be great. I was thinking a life-size. You know how like some rich people have like a
Ooh.
life-size chessboard with real chess.
Yeah.
What if we
Yeah.
had a life-size Crossfire where all the ball bearings and pucks are played by human beings? Then they're launched
And they're all
out.
just knocking into each other. All right,
Actually,
Lanny.
that was Ender's
What?
Game.
We're going to take the audience from your show, Late Night with Lanny, and we're
Okay.
going to turn all of them into a live-action Crossfire human-sized version.
Actually, I would be down for that.
All right, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll actually do this.
I'm all about trying out new things in my show. So
We're going to go out onto 29th Street in the middle of the night and just reenact Crossfire with a bunch of people playing the ball bearings.
I'm down.
I'm also down.
I want to watch this commercial.
If you guys want to be a part of that, let us know.
Yes.
So I YouTubed the Crossfire 90s commercial. I'm not sure. There seems to be some backstory we're missing here because the episode description says none of the 14-second missing bullshit here.
What?
So I
Nice.
guess there was like a abridged version of the commercial that
Right.
was
That
on YouTube. And
Wasn't in the Dimension Void.
I like also that 187 people gave the thumbs down to this commercial.
Oh.
They went out of their way to watch it, and for some reason, it just did not cut the cake.
Yeah. Well,
That's a
actually,
lot of views, 1,800.
like 1.8
million.
million.
Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
almost as if the internet has some kind of nostalgic
Nostalgia.
affection for the 1990s.
You know, I don't really understand people who have a nostalgia for the 90s. Like, why would they want to listen to podcasts? Or, oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Podcasts are meant only for the same Italian accent over and over.
Yeah, you know, that's right, boyo.
All right, so
Now I'm talking Irish, I
so
think.
this void dimension, I can already tell from the still image from the thumbnail that it also seems to have like this arena UFC
Right, yeah,
kind of
definitely.
cage match
Gosh.
going on.
Yeah, and but there are actual flames. You couldn't have a Crossfire game that didn't have fire in the commercial.
Lightning. Oh yeah, they're on those.
I forgot that they
hoverboards.
hoverboard in.
Those,
Yeah.
those
Oh
are
my
just like the actual
God.
hoverboards now. I love that they're still using just the actual
The
plastic
actual game,
cheap
yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Where did the arena go?
See, they're in the dimension void though. 'cause
Yeah, you're right.
It's
All the
nothing
arena
but black
has
around them.
The audience has disappeared.
And a smoke machine and some like lighting effects.
Yeah, it's some teamster behind them just like flipping on the light switch on and off.
Now I don't know what happened when you played Crossfire, but lightning was never going on in and around the game when I played.
I tried to only play in storms to
to
achieve
try and
that
enhance
effect.
that effect, yeah.
All right, so before we move on, I do.
Did you also
Wait,
play
I-
with fingerless driving gloves as this child in this
course. You don't
commercial
wanna
did?
get blisters.
Of course.
I just wanted to address too, just the gender differences here in
Okay,
the
yes.
board
Yes,
games
please-
of the
please do.
90s. Just because I see this and it's like it's really cool, it's awesome, and I think girls at this point had Pretty Princess and that game where you called your crush and
Oh,
to
yeah.
see if he liked you.
Wait, what game was
That was what was it called? Dream Phone.
Oh, we
Yeah,
played that. We played
yeah.
that one.
we used to play that,
Nick's
yeah.
house.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I
Because
should've
we're
said that
very
out
cool
loud.
guys.
It's just so because you look at this game and there's nothing that's like inherently boy about it, but
Yeah, it can
Right.
be played by
it's
just
anybody.
marketed only to boys.
It could- like
Yes.
I'm sure the Williams sisters were probably very good at a game like this.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is where they got their competitive edge from.
Are they called the Williams sisters collectively or the Williams twins?
I think they're
They're
Willie
not
Mai.
twins.
They're not twins. No,
No.
one's older,
They're
right?
not
Yeah,
twins.
yeah.
Yeah, one is older.
So they're just called the Williams. I feel like
sisters.
Williams sisters doesn't sound right coming out. Are they just always just called Serena and Venus Williams? Is that
I
it?
think so.
I think so. Maybe that's
The
why.
Williamses.
The Williams eye.
The Williamses.
But Lanny, I'm curious. Do you think there should have been a Crossfire for girls? And what would
like
that
a
have
pink
been?
and purple one, like
just
the
pink
Talk
guns?
Girl?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm kind of thinking. Because you're right, it's bullshit that there were, especially in the '90s, this big divide between like
Huge.
guy toys and girl toys.
Even in the Happy Meals, yeah.
Even now, we still
Yeah,
have it.
of
Like there
course.
was that whole thing with there were no Black Widow merchandise for the Avengers, and there was a lot of Rey merchandise for the new Star Wars. So,
Problem.
Well, she wasn't a very big character in the movie, to be honest.
of course not. I'm wondering, like, if you had the same exact commercial, but it's two girls, does that change? Like, would girls be more interested in Crossfire, and would boys
Well,
be less
I
interested?
bet you if this commercial was on today, one character would be an Asian girl, and the other would be a Latino boy.
And then you hit all your demographics.
The CGI
Yeah.
would probably be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, what's the 2010s equivalent of the void dimension? What
Of the void dimension?
would it be?
man.
Would it be like an Apple store, like just all white
It would be,
walls?
maybe it'd be like a CG background, like a completely
I feel like it would be in a
CG.
white room.
okay. Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know, clean room.
No, I feel like if there, I don't know if it would be two girl. I don't think that they would need to have a girls version and just make it
Right.
pink and
Crossfire
purple.
for girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
Nobody wants that.
I think that they were just being a very narrow-minded in this decade, especially when it came to marketing for toys.
Right. There weren't a lot of like this is sort of a combat game. There weren't a lot of
But
female-oriented
what's funny
combat
is it's
games in
not
the 90s.
really a combat game.
No, it's not. It's
more like
shooting
a
ball
block
bearings.
hockey or
Yeah.
pool or tennis.
And
But the commercial is what turned it into that.
You're right.
Like
Yeah.
this commercial looks like it was directed by John Carpenter. And like again, the commercial is why the game is popular. It's why we're probably talking about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a
Right.
brilliant marketing move.
Yep.
But I'm like thinking about who the genius that came up with it. Like who saw this game? They might not even have had like the '90s grid and the lightning bolts on the
I'm
game.
sure
at the
that was
time.
added to the game after this
so
commercial.
like who saw this hockey type game and was like, oh, this is post-apocalyptic warfare.
I don't know, but they're a smart man. And I'm now wondering if we could get John Carpenter to direct the film adaptation of Crossfire, because I would love to see
Escape
that.
from Crossfire.
Kurt Russell is one of the blocks, and James Gandolfini, through the magic of CGI, is one of the others.
Crossfire on Precinct 13.
And the movie version, I will require you guys to make one of them a woman and the other
That's
or a
completely
girl.
fine. We'll get Dame Judi Dench in there
Wilfred Brimley is still
as
alive,
one of the
right?
guns.
Wilfred Brimley, he's
Wilfred
hanging in
Brimley
there,
is still
right?
alive.
So
As of this
if we
recording,
could
at
get
least.
like a horrible Wilfred Brimley monster, like at the end of Thing,
Yeah.
to
Oh, that'd be
the
amazing.
main villain of Crossfire.
I know it's 80s, but how good is the thing? Come on.
Thing's
That's a great
incredible.
movie.
It's one of the best movies
It's
of
a
all
good
time.
I saw the thing.
Look at this stuff.
Lanny's
So-
never seen it, so we're going to stop and watch the thing.
well,
That was a good movie.
I want to watch this. So apparently there is a 1970s commercial for
Oh,
Crossfire.
wow.
So
Okay.
There
let's
we go.
see the difference between the Carpenter-esque 90s commercial and
We'll
this.
describe for the listeners what we've got here.
Oh, it's a very James
It
Bond.
is.
It's
It's
in
a-
a
it's a whole Bond
Crossfire.
thing,
It's
yeah.
actually in a not a crosshair.
Wait, is
See-
that a girl? Or just a
I
boy
can't
with
tell.
long
It's,
hair?
it's 70s hair. But
I
one
think it's
thing
two
I
guys.
notice is that the game
a
is
dad.
it's a straightforward rectangle.
it's a-
whereas the 90s Crossfire was more like octagonal,
yeah.
which is the more extreme shape.
Yeah, exactly. It's more UFC. Oh, it's very James Bond-esque. I like this much better, to be honest. I think this is a better
Yeah.
Portrayal.
spirit
This is also
of the game.
appears to
yeah.
be a British commercial.
Oh,
It says
yeah,
it's
you're
a
right.
UK
Yeah, it's a classic
advertisement.
telly
so
commercial.
I don't know. Oh, the telly.
Yeah.
Hey, let's play the
Also,
Crossfire.
compared to the other commercial, which had over 1.5 million views,
Yeah.
this has 382 views.
Yes. So listeners, let's bump this one up. Give it the old 90s percentile bump. We're gonna get to 400.
Well, thank you, Al C, for uploading it.
Al C,
There's also
you're number
a bit-
one in our hearts.
They made it a family game, having the dad and the,
Yeah,
and the kid.
yeah, it's a much better commercial. Are we just old now? Is that it?
I think so. We just like old things.
I like that they just showed the game there. That was good.
There's a video.
Al C branded the video with his name, by the way.
There's also a video. We won't watch this, but there's 13 minutes of actual gameplay footage of the original Crossfire, the 70s.
The hell we won't. Let's put it on. That's good podcasting. No, we'll let you guys do that in your own time.
So with the bugs, did you?
Okay, back to the bugs that lived in my Crossfire machine.
Did you you just stopped playing the game? You moved on, and then a few years later you went down, and they were in there, or was it just like one day you're like Mom, Dad, I want to go play Crossfire, and then you reach in and just bugs pour
Just
out of
thousands of bugs. It was like that scene in Creepshow with the cockroaches.
They just eat the bugs.
Yeah. No, it was like I hadn't played it in years, and it had just been sitting under this chair in the basement. I don't know why we kept it under a chair for easy access, maybe not with the rest of the board games. But then I pulled it out one day, and there were just like dead bugs in it.
Oh, at least they were dead.
They were dead. Well, most of them. There may have been a few, kicking around.
What killed them? Was it like an
That's
old
just where
folks
they
home?
went to die.
Was it like the morgue?
It was the
bug
elephant
morgue?
graveyard, but for bugs. Was a Crossfire
Well,
in
if
my
I
basement.
was a bug, I would say, "Well, my loved one just died. Let's bury it in the Crossfire machine."
There's like
amidst the lightning and flames.
you see like a row
Ceremony.
of cockroaches walking from like one side of the room towards the and they all have their headlights on.
Yeah.
And they got like parking permits on their antennae.
Yeah, it was sad. That's when I really first grappled with my own mortality when I fished out the dead bodies from my Crossfire machine.
Oh boy. Well, I'm glad your bugs had a good ceremony place
Yes, it
where
was
they're dead.
It was an important time in my life.
Does anybody have? I could probably talk about Crossfire all day, but does anybody have anything else they want to add?
I think
Lanny, I know this was like the topic you were dying to
I
get.
know.
You were like, I hope an obscure board game from the 90s comes up. That's
That
what
was
I want to talk
targeted only
about.
to boys.
Our
Targeted
next
to men.
topic is Omega Virus. Watch.
All right, so here we go. Finding out our next topic. It is
We got 34 minutes on the clock.
Freaks and Geeks.
Ooh,
That's a great
is that
90s
90s?
board
Great
game.
topic.
Yeah, it was 99.
Oh wow.
And that comes from Dan Dennis.
So
Actually, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry. Sorry, Dan. It's Brian Moss.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
All right. So I'm assuming Dan Dennis has something else in there that we'll get to.
It was something else that had
Thank
freak
you,
in
Brian.
it. We'll get to it.
Ooh.
It was. Yeah.
So has everybody seen the show?
I haven't seen every episode, but I've seen the pilot like 5 times.
That's
Okay.
fine. I've seen the pilot a few times too.
It's a good
Yeah.
pilot.
It's that's why it's just such a great. It's just a perfect way to do a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? 13 episodes? 22 episodes? It's just one season.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I've
feel
seen
like
a
it
lot
might be
of
like
I think.
15 or
I'm
something.
too
I think it's
lazy
a little bit more
to
than
walk
13.
the 5 feet to my DVD shelf and look.
It is insane that only got one season because people liked it when it was happening, didn't they? Or is that only after the fact?
It was pretty much
It was
only after the
critically,
fact.
it was the critics loved it.
18
but,
episodes, by the way.
Okay, that makes sense. Critics loved it, but that means nothing with TV
Right,
shows.
so
All the good TV shows get canceled.
In case you don't know what we're talking about, Freaks and Geeks was a show. Judd Apatow and Paul Feig did this show in 1999, I think it started. So it's just barely 90s, but it is, and it was kind of responsible for launching the careers of a lot of
several people, yeah.
stars now, like Seth Rogen,
Stars
James
and
Franco,
filmmakers.
Jason Segel. Yeah,
Because Paul Feig's doing Ghostbusters.
that's true.
Judd Apatow obviously
Judd
moved on
Apatow
and-
now
and
runs Hollywood.
Reinvented the modern comedy and
Yep.
drove it into the ground.
Well, we'll save that for our Apatalk podcast. Apatalk. But yeah, I mean, as we were saying, it was a critical darling that did not have the viewers. And I've read a lot. There's been a lot has been written about Freaks and Geeks in the past 17 years. But I remember I read an oral history of it in some magazine article thing where they said it was kind of from the get-go. NBC, I think, is where it aired. kind of didn't have faith in it. It was expensive. They kind of wanted it to fail. And I think it was on Saturday nights, which is not exactly the prime time you want.
Empty Nest did very well on Saturday.
Empty Nest had a different audience, which was young boys like you and I, because we both love Empty Nest.
Yeah, it was. I remember the commercial for the pilot or for the season before it started airing. I remember they were playing it on Must See TV constantly, and it was who played the dad?
It was
Joe Flaherty.
Joe Flaherty
From SCTV.
Yep.
And it was him going. He's like, "Don't do drugs, you'll end up dead." You know who did drugs? Jimi Hendrix. And where is he? He's dead. Yeah, and it was like that.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember that.
I just
commercial.
remember them being. It was like the Crossfire commercial. It was
It's just
always
embedded
on.
in our brains. There was a lot of fire and lightning in it.
I thought it was a brilliant show. I loved it.
Yeah.
I guess this will never be a 90s topic. I would say Undeclared, which was kind of its sequel, which was the Freaks and Geeks is about high school kids.
Yep.
Undeclared, after Freaks and Geeks got canceled, Judd Apatow took some of the cast and did a college half-hour sitcom that was much more comedy than dramedy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just easier because it is a comedy, but I think I enjoy that one more. But Freaks and Geeks, still a great show.
Undeclared was also contemporary, whereas Freaks and Geeks was a period show.
It took place in 80.
Taking place in the 80s.
1980.
It was 1980 exactly.
Yeah, it opens up with them doing Bill Murray Caddyshack and the kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Wait, so it's Undeclared. They have the same characters from here, but they
No, it's
the same
unrelated.
cast.
Same cast,
and
but
it's
not the same
a lot.
characters.
Like Seth Rogen is on both shows.
Jason
Segel
Segel
shows up in a very memorable
Martin
role.
Starr. Very, very much similar people. But it was just the reason I linked the two, besides them being a year apart and being the same people, is because one's high school, one's college.
Yeah.
That's right, exactly.
Okay.
So, Lanny, you have not seen Freaks and Geeks? You've only seen the
Few
pilot.
episodes.
No, I've seen a few episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it the whole way through. I've always wanted to watch it from beginning to end.
Because I was going to ask, what's your favorite Freaks and Geeks episode, guys? Do you have a favorite?
Which is the one where at the party?
Oh, that's a great one.
The one with the
I
party.
think that's the second episode.
That's another one I've seen multiple times, and
yeah.
I really
they
like
have the
it.
fake alcohol in the keg. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
right, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
That's
That's a good
so
one.
good. Yes.
Personally, I like the one where they play D&D with Daniel, who is the James Franco
I
cool kid
believe
character.
that is the last
It is the
episode.
last episode,
Yeah.
and he plays Carlos the dwarf, which I love.
I remember. So Seth Rogen at the time was completely different. Like, again, he wasn't famous yet. He was a character actor who was on the show.
Well, he wasn't even an actor. He became an actor through Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, he got cast. They did a cast call in all the schools and everything.
He was, I think,
But
17 or 18.
I'm saying his demeanor was very different from what he's known now as like the lovable stoner.
Right.
Yeah.
This one, he was much more like quiet and sarcastic and kind of
stoic, standoffish.
Yeah, very standoffish and cynical. And that's actually how I saw Seth Rogen for years after that. Because
Really?
because I watched Freaks and Geeks, I knew who he was well before Knocked Up made him a huge star. So every time I followed him, I was always like, oh, that's out of character for him, even though he was not.
He
It
was
the other way
doing
around.
something that was much more in line with his personality.
But there is an episode where he dates a girl, and it turns out she was
right. I
born.
forgot about
She was
this.
born with both genders, and they had I forget the name for it, and they had to choose
Hermaphrodite.
there it is.
Yeah.
So they had to choose they had to choose what sex she is at birth. So it was just this. It was a very interesting idea because it's like
Very ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's like she's definitely a girl, but there's like this weird undertones of like am I gay and stuff like that.
Right.
And for Seth Rogen's character to be the one going through this because he was this weird standoffish stoic guy. I thought that was a really interesting episode. I think that might be one of my favorites.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
It's a good one.
Really
It's a very progressive episode.
There's
You know,
also another one with Rashida Jones I remember really liking, but I can't remember what the hell it was about.
So I have another question then. I'm curious. I remember when the commercials were on for Freaks and Geeks when it was coming out, but I never watched it when it was actually airing.
Yeah.
Did either of you?
No.
I guess that's why it got canceled.
Yeah.
The three of us control all of
No,
television.
I got into it sophomore year in college. A friend of mine was like really big on it and had us watch the pilot, and then I got into the show
I actually
from the pilot.
I don't remember when I actually watched it. I feel like it was only like
I
6
made
years
you
ago.
watch the pilot in your basement after I got hooked
After
on
we
it.
played Crossfire.
After we played Crossfire with Dead Bugs.
Yep.
And then we popped in Freaks and Geeks.
So clear why you guys have this podcast now. This is your
Absolutely.
lives.
Yeah, it's so we said a lot of people came out of it. Let's rattle them off. See,
Well, who do you think is the biggest star out of Freaks and Geeks? Is it Judd Apatow himself? I think it might
Oh
be.
yeah.
yeah, I
Like
would,
who's done the best? It's got to be him.
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, I would say probably has more
James
money.
Franco.
over
though,
James
too.
Franco. That's kind of what I'm asking.
Yes.
Like, is it
Well,
Seth Rogen or
Seth
James
Rogen,
Franco?
I think, makes more money.
James Franco also has done weird things in like just social media, and I think he doesn't have the greatest reputation right now. I don't know. I
okay.
don't know if that means anything about star power.
yeah.
There were
but-
some issues with
James Franco was the first to break out of everybody, or
sure,
maybe
yeah.
Linda Cardellini, she was the star of the show.
Yes.
And she was like 30 when she was playing a 15, 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Was she that old?
Yeah, so now she's playing a lot of middle-aged and late 40 roles,
Right.
which is really weird to see because you still group her in that same
She's
group
Lindsay
as Seth
Weir.
Rogen and yeah, all them.
Yeah.
But James Franco was the first to explode out of the gates because Spider-Man was,
Yeah.
3 years later?
Spider-Man 1 was 2002.
Cop
Yeah.
Dad was out.
It's called City by the Sea.
Oh yeah, where Robert De Niro is his dad, and he's a cop.
I think it's called City by the
Yeah.
Sea. We always just call it the Cop Dad, and I've never seen the movie.
I hear it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, all right.
But it'll always be Cop Dad to me.
It'll always be Cop
I don't
Dad
know
in
what you
our
guys are
hearts.
talking about.
Yeah, so James Franco was the first to break out, and then it wasn't really, I think, until Apatow. So Apatow got Undeclared after that, and then somehow he's always a big producer. He produced Cable Guy. He was doing all right for himself. He was just not a name.
Right. Well, he became a name
he
with
did Anchorman
40-Year-Old
and-
Virgin.
Yeah, exactly. So he had that
And so did
going
Seth
on.
Rogen.
I have a feeling if Freaks and Geeks never existed, he might have ended up still doing 40-Year-Old Virgin, and that career would have. He just
Still
maybe
happened.
wouldn't have met certain actors.
Could have been. Yeah, maybe.
I would argue that. But yes, you have Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, the kid, the main kid,
John Francis Daly.
Did
He's
he
a
get
big
big?
screenwriter
He
now.
was on
Oh, he's a
Bones, but
screenwriter.
now he's not just a screenwriter, but he's about to become a
director?
pretty big
Producer?
director. Yeah.
What's he do?
He's directing.
What's he
one
got
of
in the
his
hopper?
Spider-Man.
Is that what people say?
Is he doing the new Spider-Man movie?
Oh, is he? I don't know.
I think he might be writing it. He's part of a tag team. They did
Yeah.
the Horrible Bosses, and then that did so well. So
Right.
they got a number of scripts down the pipeline. They did the Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Well, Busy
Yeah.
Phillips too.
Busy Phillips, also great. I have a question.
Rashida Jones was on it. Linda Cardellini. We said the Martin Starr does all right, but mostly because Apatow puts him in things.
Well, he's on Silicon Valley. That's not
oh
Judd
yeah,
Apatow.
that's huge.
But I am really excited just because we're talking about James Franco. 11/22/63
yeah.
is coming out on Hulu pretty soon. Maybe it's out by the time this will be airing, but that is the Hulu miniseries based on the Stephen King novel that James Franco is starring and I think also producing.
Yeah, I have that book on my Kindle. My mom
It's a big book. It's a long one.
Yeah, my mom gifted it to me for Christmas, and I've just been keeping it as a backup. Like I
Right.
was never really felt like in the mood to read it, but I was always like, well, in case I ever get like stuck in an elevator or I was like, I feel like
I'll read this
Like
900-page book.
I was purposely like not reading it so that I always had something that would take a very long time, like to kill time
Yeah.
if I needed it. But
I
now-
recommend you do read it.
now
It's a
I-
good
yeah,
book.
Now I don't know what to do if I want to read the book first, the show. My dad is he had a hit song in the 50s, a hit doo-wop song that is mentioned in the novel. The main
Was it?
Yeah,
Oh,
the main,
I must have noticed that because I read it.
Yeah,
when
the main
Your
when it came
dad
out.
had a hip doo-wop song. This is very interesting.
Well, this is in 50s percentile, so I won't go too much into it. But
okay.
yeah, he had a song called Little Star, and Little Star is mentioned as like the guy cycling through the car radio or something because he's like, oh
That
my
does sound
god, I'm
familiar,
weird.
yeah.
I'm in the 1960s. Let me see what's on the radio.
Yeah.
And it's my dad. So,
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's another reason I should probably read the book. I read that sentence
Just for that one sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, and my dad had me like Kindle search it, and we looked at it. So.
Nice. It's a good book. I recommend you and all of our listeners read it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. That's like the first big Hulu show too, right? For
yeah.
Hulu original.
Well, it's not the first Hulu original, but that's a pretty major one because J.J. Abrams is producing. It's based on Stephen King. Like, there's a lot of names attached to it. Unlike like The Awesomes is the only other Hulu original I can think of.
I can only think of the ones that they bought, like the Mindy Project.
Yeah, right. Mindy
and
Project.
That, yeah, otherwise would have been dead.
Yeah. I think you're correct that John Francis Daly is writing Spider-Man. It
Yeah.
was
Oh,
on
they
his
also
Wikipedia
did.
page.
I think they directed Vacation. I think that was it.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
they did.
They did the remake of Vacation.
Oh,
or
right.
Not even a remake,
That just
a
came
sequel.
out this
yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was.
It was a
bad.
requel.
Yeah. It was. I laughed.
It had its moments. It was not
Yeah.
a terrible film, as
Yeah.
some people would lead you to believe.
Yeah. It was. It had its moments. That's a good way to put it.
I'm just getting a little bit exhausted with all of the remakes.
Oh, yeah.
I think we all are.
I
Well-
don't mind remakes at all, to be honest.
I'm going to tie this back together. Would you guys be interested in a Freaks and Geeks remake or a reboot?
Would it
what if
still
we
be
did-
1980, or
We-
now would it be 1990?
Yeah.
What- okay, let's say they updated, put it in the 90s, and it's a bunch of young up-and-comers. Maybe Judd Apatow's involved, maybe not, but it's
Two
the same
young guys
idea.
named Jack and Dan.
That's it.
Just
Just going through
playing
life.
Crossfire with dead bugs.
Yep, that is the entire plot of the show.
So I remember Freaks and Geeks opens up with the song "I'm All Right" from Caddyshack.
Right.
So what would the 1990 Freaks and Geeks open up with? What song?
Y'all ready for this? Do 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 do.
Anything from Space Jam.
No,
It's a loose remake of Space Jam as well, because there's Looney Tunes are there.
I'm not opposed to it. So this is a much longer conversation, so I'll just give you a topic sentence. But
Okay.
the reason I'm not inherently against remakes is they don't really. I've learned to separate the originals, so they don't. But the one problem I have with
Right.
remakes is that they're taking up real estate that original movies could be taking up.
Right.
Yes,
But
That's the
they're
biggest.
not wiping out the original.
Exactly.
I think is what you're
That
saying. Yeah.
doesn't bother me. It's annoying.
Like you can still watch Point Break.
Yeah,
you don't have to
if
watch
it's
the
exactly
remake.
the same and there's no point to it, then it's a waste of 2 hours. But it doesn't make the other 2 hours a waste either.
Right.
A Freaks and Geeks reboot, though, I would argue would be good because then maybe the story they never got a chance to tell that many stories. They only did 18 episodes.
Right, I
Plus the
think
idea
you're
of a 90s period show, it doesn't even have to be Freaks and Geeks.
Right,
would be really cool.
It could be Geeks and Freaks.
I guess the only reason I'm getting tired of all the remakes is because I feel like it's the industry's way of being lazy. They don't have
Oh,
to
yeah,
think
that's-
as hard.
Absolutely,
So it's again same thing with theater. If you're going to do a revival of something, then you should have a new take on it. You should have
Yeah.
a reason why you're doing the revival. So
Yeah,
a reboot should be the same.
I don't know. It's laziness is part of it. I think the main reason they do it is they're just so afraid of spending money and not
Right.
getting the money back that they have to
Yes.
do something that people have heard
Guaranteed
of to
money
get,
back.
and that really sucks.
That's why you
because-
get the man from Uncle.
because that really limits experimentation. It's so nice when you get a movie. I love seeing a movie where I don't know what's going to happen next,
Right.
and that's so rare. Usually, you sit in a movie, even if it's movies we like Avengers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know exactly where it's going and how it's going to happen, and then the only way the movie's going to be good is if it does that very well.
Right. Yeah.
But
Well, I
I
think
love
you're
seeing
talking about mainstream movies, though. I think that there are a lot of indie movies that are doing that kind of work.
Yes, there are, but not as many. And I think 20, 30 years ago, a lot of those, especially after New Hollywood took over in the 70s, a lot of those indie movies would be major releases.
I
They
think
would
you're,
get
I think you're
bought.
right.
Yeah.
And nowadays, most of them are just going right to
garbage.
VOD.
Yeah.
Oh, right to the garbage.
Oh no, I'm saying I was saying the mainstream movies are now.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Again,
yeah.
it's all about real estate. They're just taking up the space that these otherwise good movies could be
Yeah.
taking up.
Plus, they're also releasing a lot more movies and TV shows. Like every friggin'
It's getting-
network
it's getting-
is making original
It's getting
shows
impossible
now.
for everybody to
Nothing can
catch
break
up
out.
on all, even just the good stuff. The creative.
And I don't know what the ratings for Freaking Geeks were, but I feel like if it had aired today with the ratings it got in 1999, it would have been a big hit.
Yeah, yeah.
People would have been
Because
writing about
anything
it.
would have-
Because there aren't
yeah.
any big hits anymore. It's like The Big Bang Theory, and that's it. And
No,
Empire, I think.
I'm a little off because I stopped following this stuff a few years ago, but I was following it. I'd
Yeah,
say
it had 6.77 million viewers.
that's bad for 1999. That's very
That's
bad.
terrible for 1999. That is excellent
That's
for
decent.
2016.
That's very, very decent for now. Yeah, so I remember when American Idol, when I watched it, so like 5-6 years ago, when it was the dominant number one show,
Yeah.
it had about 12 million viewers a week. Big
Yep.
Bang Theory probably does that, maybe 20 million, but I feel like 12 is closer more to the 12. That back then, Seinfeld was almost canceled in its third season because it only had 11 million viewers
Yeah.
a week. And
Wow.
we have a bigger population now, so you would think, if anything,
Right,
the
but
numbers would be
there's-
higher. But like you said, it's all fractured.
It's all
Yeah.
fragmented now. So it's all
So its ratings
all
would
over the
be
place.
better, but I don't even think that you're still in a broadcast mindset. I don't even think ratings matter. I think Freaks and Geeks would probably not have been canceled because it probably would have been it wouldn't have been on a network. It would probably be on a
You're
niche
probably
or
right.
Yeah.
I think it would have been
FX
on like HBO even.
yeah, and then it would probably
Or
be guaranteed
Netflix.
a few seasons.
Yeah,
or if
I
it was
think
on
you're right.
Showtime, it would have 30 seasons.
I'd be into that if they did like an HBO or Netflix series now.
Fucks and Geeks,
There you go.
starring James Gandolfini.
Oh boy.
It's like, oh, this is puberty.
But they have to. Is Freaks and Geeks inherently 80s names? Would they have to change the name of it to make it more 90s if they did a 90s reboot? I don't feel like it is.
I think so.
Just I'm wondering about
You
that.
could call it like Scrubs.
I mean,
and
the
Schlubs.
general idea was the geeks. The geeks
Okay.
were the geeks. They were the younger kids, the freshmen. They were nerds, and the freaks were James Franco's, Jason Segel. They were like the alt kids. They weren't goth.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
they were into like Rush, and they weren't new wavers.
Well, Daniel was cool-ish, but he was like,
But he was like James
the cool,
Dean coolish.
Yeah, he was like the cool kid who like probably knows how to get drugs, but you don't necessarily want to invite him to your house.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess he was one of the cool kids, but I feel he wasn't a jock. He was
not
probably,
a jock, no.
He was probably, again, I feel
He
like
was not a traditionally popular
I feel like
kid.
he was popular in those circles in high school, but he wouldn't win the general election.
No.
You know, he'd win the primary if you were breaking up all the traditional school groups. But he wouldn't win the general
prom
election.
king.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always had a problem with the name of the show because I didn't understand who the freaks were. Because, like you're saying, they were freaks in a sense, but they never felt like freaks to me. They just seemed like the cool alt kids.
Yeah.
The cooler than the cool kids.
Freaky.
No,
they should
they
get real
weren't.
freaky. If it was on HBO, they would.
So what would the 90s equivalent of alt kids be? The Geeks would pretty much still be the Geeks.
Goth kids, maybe? I don't really want to watch that show, though.
Grunge?
Well, but grunge was mainstream.
Yeah. That's
I don't know.
Interesting. What would
We'll get to
What'd
work
it be
on it,
now?
though.
What
would it be now? I have
2016
no idea.
Freaks and Geeks.
The Geeks would be
I don't know
cool.
what kids.
Do you know
I
what
don't know
kids do
kids
now?
are.
This is unrelated to Freaks and Geeks.
I know they show pictures of their genitals
They
to
do
each
do
other
that,
at the
but-
age of like 10.
Kids are like quoting B movie to each other. Have you heard about this, Jack?
No.
They're like sending each other clips from the B movie script, like
they just go,
copying and pasting just bits
Why
of the B movie script.
You
they
mean the
grew
one
up
with
with it?
Because
Seinfeld?
the Jerry Seinfeld scripted B movie.
Do you like jazz?
Because supposedly it's because it's pointless and just like nobody likes that movie and that movie's just a waste.
Well, I'm
and they
old.
just like waste
That's
each
too
other's
meta for
time
me. I'm
by
old.
sending it to each other. And you can buy a T-shirt that has the entire script of B movie on it. The entire script.
We got to start tweeting out B movies, trying to
We
get some of
gotta-
these young listeners.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell I don't know what's going on there. There's your old man moment for the podcast.
That's so weird.
Isn't it weird how, like, as generations go, keep going and evolving, so does the humor of every generation?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what really scares me. Is like
Things have gotten so postmodern.
It happened so quickly. I really didn't think. I always thought I would be the cool adult, and it's really like I'm so worried. I'm just gonna not get like I always get so mad at my dad when I was growing up when he'd be like, "Oh, I don't like Conan O'Brien. He's so obnoxious. He's so nerdy.
Yeah.
Or whatever he would say." And I was like, "That's the point. He doesn't like Bill Murray." And I was just like, what? How do you not like what? And now I'm pretty sure like kids are gonna be like, you don't like B movie script? Huh? I was just like,
Neither do we, but that's the point.
you don't get it, old man.
Like I
is how kids
I saw
talk.
B movie in the theater. It was funny. No, you don't say that. You don't see the movie. You read the script.
On someone's T-shirt. Anyway, I'm gonna buy that shirt. I think.
The only thing, like, it's getting worse and worse by the month. And the only thing that brings me solace in the fact that I'm getting old and I'm just already way out of the loop and it's just getting worse is that those kids will be out of the loop very soon too.
Yeah.
Like when like the next generation grows up with VR and like they're gonna be quoting real bees to each other. They're just like kids are just gonna give each other jars of honey and just like, isn't this funny? I got you honey.
It's gonna go all the way back to the 50s, and people just were very nice and gave each other nice
Yeah, you
gifts.
actually go over to your neighbor instead of Snapchatting. Snapchatting's so passe. Now you just go over and ask for sugar.
And you just give them honey. I love this idea of kids in the future giving each other jars of honey because it's a big joke. Like, why would I give you honey?
What am I going to use this for? Tea?
That's
Yes,
What am I
fantastic.
going to
Joke.
put this in my Greek yogurt? God. And then like the older kids who are the young kids now, and they're all so hip and cool with their
Yeah.
B movie T-shirts.
Yep.
They're going to be like, "Oh, honey," and they open it up and they scoop some out. Dad, what are you doing?
You don't eat the
You don't
honey.
eat the honey.
You give it to somebody. It's a gag.
And then it's really lame if you re-gift the honey. Like
Yeah.
once you get a jar of honey, you have to keep it. You have to put it
And
on
you
your
can't
honey
eat
shelf.
it.
Yeah, you can't eat. If you
Everyone
re-gift
has
the
to
honey,
have honey
yeah.
shelves in their house.
Oh,
there's
and then
an-
the cool kids have the most honey.
who has the different kinds of flavors of honey. But like, what
But you
if
never
there's,
eat it.
there's going to be like an app, like a Google Glass VR app or whatever, or
Yep.
your iCar, and you can scan the barcode and it'll tell you if somebody else had already gifted that.
Right, you
And
can see the whole
yeah.
lineage of the honey.
And if you get caught re-gifting honey, you are just like bottom of the popularity.
it's like Logan's Run.
Yeah.
You get taken out of society.
Guys, I just realized this is also only going to be for the really privileged kids because there's a huge bee problem
Yeah.
in the world. So it's going to
That's
be very
why,
expensive.
because honey is so rare. That's why it's become a big joke. Like, oh, everything's dying. Here's some honey.
It's like we really need
Oh,
that honey
kids.
for society because the bees are dead. It's like, Dad,
God, Dad, don't tell me what
that's
to do.
the joke.
So do you guys have anything else for Freaks and Geeks?
Well, what's Freaks and Geeks?
I also really like Jason Segel. We didn't talk much about him, but that's all I
he
had
was
to
great
say.
on- he was great on Freaks and Geeks. He was pretty much himself.
What is it, Nick Andopoulos, right? Was that his name? He was the drummer. He was obsessed with Rush.
Yeah.
He's a little rapey, not too like a little
was very
stalkery.
into Lindsay.
Rapey would not be the right word. Stalkery
Right. Yeah.
to Lindsay. Yeah, a little uncomfortable.
I was listening to a podcast.
Was it this
with
one?
him. It wasn't because he was a guest. Have you ever had Jason Segel as a guest?
We
here?
did, but his
Have you
mic
listened
was
to our
off.
past episodes? Then,
Yeah, we
then-
forgot to turn his mic on, so you don't really hear him, and we decided not to promote him.
It's too bad. Actually, I
Oh,
think
well.
it was WTF with Mark Maron.
What's that? I've never heard of that podcast.
But he was just talking about his origin story, and this was the first gig that
He
he
was
had.
written by a radioactive seagull, and he became Jason Segel.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
Must make penis jokes. I don't know why he's a robot now.
But he was saying how he was discovered in his high school play, which
Okay.
doesn't happen. He was discovered by some talent agent, got signed, and just like didn't go to college and met Judd Apatow. This is like one of the things that he auditioned for, and Judd
Right.
Apatow like took him under his wing and guided him through. 'Cause he just
Wow.
he has this like amazing like luck. in
Yeah,
his
no,
life.
it's
Well, that's like
he's the
this
exception
is
to the rule.
90s, but it's not what we're talking about. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer, very 90s show, very great show. David Boreanaz played Angel on that show, and he was discovered. He was just walking his dog, and they were like, "You need to be an actor," because he was so handsome, and that's
my
how he
God.
became
That makes
an
me
actor.
so mad. I just-
like, how come I never am like? I
Same
walk
with-
down streets all day.
No, I just read about how Jennifer Lawrence got
Yeah, same
discovered,
thing
and
with
she
her.
was in Union Square watching those street dancers, which I've
Are
probably
you
sat
kidding?
and watched a million times, and somebody just pointed her out. She was like 14 at the time, too. It's really creepy.
That's really creepy.
And
Yeah.
actually, I have had a guy come up to me freshman year, came up to me and said that he's like, here's my card. I like your look. Would you want to do some acting and modeling? And I threw out the card. I was like, yeah, right. I thought it was a scam. I just moved to New York from the burbs. And I was like,
That
yeah.
was your ticket,
and now
man.
I'm like, he probably was like a nobody, but maybe he
Yeah.
wasn't. Maybe he was the same guy that pulled Jennifer Lawrence and David Boreanaz. How you say it?
David Boreanaz, yeah.
Yeah. Now I feel like a fucking idiot. But
I
back
don't know.
to
He probably wanted to take pictures with your shirt off, like pretend you're on a surfboard,
all right,
Jack.
I've never had an opportunity to tell this story.
Oh,
I guess
no.
so. So
What did this unlock in your brain?
So I was I used to work very briefly for a political party in Brooklyn, and
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and every Thursday they would take us out to a local bar and buy us Dominoes, and I was drinking. And I was a little drunk, and I took the train home, but this was when I was again living in my tiny Soho apartment, so I had to take the train from Brooklyn back to the city. So I get on the train, it's late, it's pretty empty, and this woman, this like middle-aged woman, or maybe she was in her 30s, but she had a rough life, you could tell. She had like cigarette burn scars and stuff on her.
Oh, jeez.
And she sits down, she's blonde, and she was wearing like pink jeans, I remember, and she sits down, she's just like, yeah, I'm a prostitute, I just came back from a gig, I just got paid $50 to give a guy a blowjob, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we were making small
She's
talk.
just telling you this?
Yeah,
This
well,
is a dark turn.
we
but
started
continue.
making small talk because we're like the only two people on that side of the train. So then she goes, "Yeah, I want to. You're very handsome." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And she's like, "I want to start my own modeling business, my own photography modeling agency. I want to take pictures. Like, would you do it?" And I was like, I'm just trying to make small talk now. Just like, yeah, sure. She's like, give me your phone number. I was just like, all right, let me just come up with a fake number. So I start giving her, and I was drunk, and I couldn't like think of a fake number. So I started giving her my real number. It's like, all right, I'll just change the last two digits. And then just like muscle memory, I just gave her my real phone number. Just like, oh God. And then she like started stroking my hair, and she's just like,
That's how you met your first
yeah,
wife.
and she's like, what stop do you get off of? And then I was like, okay, I either say my real stop, and then if we get off, I'm in trouble because now I have, I'm very bad with just being assertive
Yeah.
and to say, like, I probably would have had sex with her and gotten AIDS
Oh,
if there was no
goodness.
easy way to get
Just
out of
like,
it.
well, I can't get out of this.
It's basically like
I don't wanna be rude.
It's basically like the remake of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, where Daniel Craig is like the killer has him, and he's like, hey, come in for coffee, and Daniel Craig goes in for coffee,
Yeah.
and then he pulls a gun on him. He's like, you knew I was the killer,
Yeah.
and you still came in for coffee because
Yeah.
society says it would have been impolite. That was me
That's
with
you.
this hooker.
Okay.
So I'm with her, and she's like, yeah, well, but like that, this isn't porn or anything. Like, I know I'm a hooker, but this is legit. I really want to do this. And so I was just like, oh, okay. So I didn't know
This
whether
is not in your apartment, right? This is
all
still
on the
still
train.
on the
On the
train.
So I didn't know. So I didn't know whether to give her my real stop or lie about my stop so that she would.
Right.
But
You
then
don't
I
want
was
Crazy
worried-
Hooker knowing where you
But
live.
I was worried the stop that I would lie about would be her
Her stop.
And then
Right.
so I was just like,
I get off at the next
Chambers
stop.
Street. And she goes, oh, okay, I keep going. So I had to get off 2 stops early and then walk like 20 blocks in the cold and drunk. So that sucked, but it was worth it. And then she did call me like a week later. I remember I was waiting for a bus to Staten Island. And she called and she's like, oh, I can't believe you gave me your real number. She's like, oh, yeah. She's like, anyway, I'm just trying to get my stuff together and I'll give you a call and we'll set it up soon. And then either she never gave me a call again, or I rarely pick up the phone anyway if I don't recognize the number. I might have just, I don't know.
Well, if you're out there, we want to know. Listeners, let's find that hooker.
I feel like she's dead.
Oh,
Rough
you
life.
know,
But getting back
I'm glad
to
we're in the
she said
comedy
she was
section
getting
on
her stuff
iTunes.
together.
She was. Maybe
she
I was
did.
the key. Like I was like.
Maybe you turned her life around.
Maybe.
No, I was saying maybe if I actually helped her with her business, she would have. But because I ignored that third phone call.
Well, look, you're not Superman. What are you supposed to take her by the hand and fix it for her?
But going back to listening to other podcasts about Jason Segel.
Yes.
There is a story. He was on Fresh Air, and they played this episode like a repeat 2 or 3 more times. And every time he tells this certain story, I just can't. I just bust out laughing like on the train. It just makes me. I don't know why. It's just so funny the way he tells it. And he's talking about how he was like an outcast in school.
Yeah.
And he was like way taller
A
than
freak and a geek, perhaps.
Yeah, he was much taller than everybody else. And he said this. It's just such a funny story. He said the kids would play a game where they would jump on his back, and everybody else would chant "Ride the oaf." Ride the oaf. I think it's the word oaf that really gets
the word
it.
oaf.
And
Kids are not that clever.
and
Yeah.
I hate listening to reruns on podcasts because I just have so many other podcasts to listen to, but
Right.
I always listen to Jason Segel because I love that story so much.
Ride the oaf.
Oaf is just one of the
Yeah,
best
that's
words.
a pretty great word. I
It's
like
3
that.
letters. You got the F. It's better than loaf.
I also just
Right.
imagine like Jason Segel, like the nicest teddy bear of a man,
Yeah,
and just
poor
like
guy.
being like, I guess I am an oaf. Poor Jason.
I like his acceptance that he's.
He's accepted it.
I think he would.
So that's Freaks and Geeks. Do you guys have anything else there? You want to try and squeeze one more topic in?
All right,
We can always keep it in the bag
Let's
if,
squeeze one in.
Yeah, we
All
can
right.
do it.
So we have, how much time do we have on the clock, Jack?
5 minutes and 22 seconds.
All right, not a lot of time,
Unless
but
you want to hear more hooker stories. I've
One-
got dozens.
1-900 numbers is our topic.
1-900.
That's actually kind of related.
It is somewhat related.
I actually don't know what.
and that comes from Lynn Sokolow.
So 900 numbers.
These are sex chat lines,
Yeah,
I believe.
800,
Oh.
800 numbers are toll free.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
dial us toll free at 1-800.
Right.
Basically, you don't have to pay long distance, even though you're
Nine-
calling long distance.
900 numbers,
you
you pay by the minute to make the
Oh.
phone call
And
as
if
the
there's a
person dialing. And it's used by sex
Well,
lines.
it could be
and
used by
party lines.
anything. It was used by like weather
Psychics.
information, psychics, but like any technology, porn just kind of dominated it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Any new way to get you off, they will immediately try to take advantage of.
That's right. That's why we're releasing that porno podcast.
I'm surprised there's not
There's
more.
not a lot of pornography podcasts that I know of.
Must
We
be-
Studios is looking
Oh, boy.
for a Tuesday show.
There you go. Done. Get ready
Blues
for the Tuesday. Bite the blues on twos.
with dildos.
Podcast
with dildos.
with poos. I don't know.
It got away from
That
us.
got away from us.
I was actually in a play about a phone sex hotline.
Really?
And you didn't
Yeah.
know what 900 was?
No, it never came up. I guess.
There wasn't like an opening song like 1-900.
Well, we were on the
Sex
receiving
line.
end of the phone calls. There was
I see.
the play was about it. It was by Teresa Reback, and
Name
does this-
dropper here.
Yeah, does this woman have a name? I don't know if anyone knows that movie.
I don't know who she is,
Our
but
listeners do now.
someone might.
That's the name of the play. Does this woman have a name?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. So does this woman have a name? Okay.
Yeah, it's by Teresa Reback, and it was about two women who just needed more money, and so they started a phone sex hotline.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, was
Tina,
there,
Tina
was
Fey.
there a movie like that for a
Yeah.
good time call? Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was
Was it any
affiliated.
connection?
I don't think so. It was coming about. Actually, that came out about the same time that we were doing the play. It was in college. Yeah.
Okay.
Tina Fey is you can look it up on YouTube. Is it when she first got her start getting acting gigs? She is in a phone sex commercial as,
she
as an
really?
operator.
God, no
yeah,
way.
Really?
because they didn't use the real phone sex operators as the.
I
It was
know-
either phone sex or a
Yeah.
party line. I'm not sure if there's a
I
difference.
know Evangeline Lilly was in like a party line commercial.
Yeah.
Like right before Lost too.
Wow.
I think it was like 2002.
I mean, I've called a few of them, but they were always the big thing with us as kids were prank calls where we'd call them up.
Right.
The one we used to like doing was, is my mom there? My mom works there. Can you put my mom on? And the other one
Pretty
was
clever.
we would dial 2 at a time. We do them for payphones. Apparently, for some reason, we could do it without getting charged. Or,
okay.
Oh, that kinda makes
There was
sense.
was some kind of loop around, or maybe we did just feed a dollar and quarters. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we put the two phones together and assumed that they were talking to each other, but we couldn't really
probably
hear.
couldn't hear
Yeah,
anything.
so we
Wow.
just, we're kids. We didn't
Yeah,
know.
kids love their pranks. I used to call 1-900 numbers, and I would just pick up and just go, ride the oaf, ride the oaf. And they had no idea
Nice
what I was doing.
callback.
I had no clue.
I always wondered if I'm sure this is the case, but I'm sure like for decency or whatever, it's not as well known. But I would love to like hear like what phone sex was like before phones. Like if you were in a civil war.
Someone came to your house
Well,
and just
it would
like
be-
whispered
it
to
would
you
be
while
in,
you
like,
closed your eyes.
handwritten letters. Like if you were a Civil War vet, you're having the worst. You're in like the worst war in history. You're having a terrible life, and you miss your wife back home. Are you writing letters like, oh yeah, and then you take off your blouse and
Then you take off your third
nipples in my
bodice.
mouth. So it's like signed Cornelius. Like I feel like
I bet you could have made a
bet
living
there are letters like that.
as like a sex talker. Where you just like went to people's house and you're like, okay, then someone comes in and then she takes her top off and she's got these like, great boobies, and then you stick your face in the boobies.
Okay, if you're going to someone's house, I think you're just probably gonna have sex with them. I think that's we're back to the hookers.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no,
No?
you didn't. That's not how it happened.
Okay.
Does Craigslist?
That's not how it happened.
This is not necessarily about sex. It could just be about like dating advice, like that Shakespeare play where they're hiding in the bushes and he's feeding him the
That's
lines.
Shakespeare about sex lines.
That's
No,
Cyrano,
that's
de
Cyrano de
Bergerac.
Bergerac.
Oh,
That's,
right. That's Shakespeare. So, do you think that there's like Craigslist categories like that where you could just hire somebody to hide in the bushes when you're on a date to feed you lines?
You can almost definitely hire someone to hide
Is
in
there
the
like a
bushes on
CBB
Craigslist.
section on Craigslist?
I don't know if they'll feed you lines, but they'll hide in your bush. That's for damn sure. Casual encounters on Craigslist.
Because you can have people do whatever you want if you
I
pay
feel like
them.
Craigslist has probably replaced the 1-900 number. No, they probably still
Well,
exist, but
Oh, so you just
Well,
like give
just the
me
internet
a
in general.
personal call, but then how do you collect the money?
I feel like people do it for free nowadays
Yeah.
because people are just into lots
because
of
the
different
internet's
weird
made
stuff.
it so much easier to just
Yep.
find other
You can
freaks
find
and
the
geeks.
people. Yeah, look at that.
See, tying it in.
Yeah.
You can
Crossfire.
escape the crossfire
of,
of life.
semen.
Of semen.
It's just
Okay.
two people jerking off
Is
at
that how-
a 45-degree angle.
Is that how the bugs died in my crossfire
It is.
machine?
I didn't want to tell you.
You came over and you semened
No,
my bugs.
but I saw two people doing it.
Oh, all right. I'm glad you didn't tell me
I-
that people were ejaculating on my crossfire machine.
with insecticide.
A bunch of freaks, a bunch of geeks.
Well, that's
All
it
right,
for
that's
That's
it.
our time.
That's it for time. So, as we close every episode, Lanny, I'm going to look at you first, and I'm going to ask you, what did you learn today?
I learned that Crossfire made people very happy, and I was not allowed to be part of it because I was a girl.
I thought you were going to say because you were not allowed to be happy, but I'm glad that's not the case.
We have two rules in the Harms house.
No crossfire
And no happiness.
Jack, what did you learn today?
Oh God, what did I learn today? I learned that I'll stick with Crossfire. I'm shocked that it was a '70s game and that it had a
Yeah.
very un-90s beginning.
It did.
With its rectangles and its wooden
And it's
wood
spy
and
movies. Yeah. I learned that if I ever meet Jason Segel, not to call him an oaf because he'll probably shed a tear and then hide in shame.
and stop making comedies.
So I won't do that.
That was the last straw. Oh man.
Okay, so if you'd like more from us, if you like what you've heard, you can check out our Simpsons podcast, which is worst episode ever. And you can check out our movie commentary series called Sync Points. You can find both of those things at wepodcast.com, wepodcast.com. The website for this show is 90spercentile.wordpress.com.
Might be changed by the time this
by
comes
now it
out,
may have been
yeah.
changed. You can go to wepodcast.com and get the updated link.
Yeah, and if you want to support the show, have we said that, Amazon?
No, we haven't. So if you want to support the show, also, you can click through our Amazon links, which are on wepodcast.com, 90s Percentile website. Everywhere there are Amazon links, and you should be clicking them. You just click the Amazon link, shop like you normally would. We get a small cut, keeps our podcast free. We like doing these. I hope you guys like
pay for the
listening to them.
bandwidth, pay for the websites, also
Yes.
pay for my internet bill because it's not free to look up these Crossfire commercials.
No,
on
it
YouTube.
is not. we have one of those pay-per-view YouTube accounts.
we really got the short end of the deal there.
We
You
really
actually
did.
just bought the internet so you could look up these
Yeah,
Wikipedia
that's it.
things. It's
Like,
directly for it.
You've heard of YouTube Red. We use YouTube Brown.
It is poop.
Lanny, thanks for being us. So,
Thank you.
when's your next show? When can we see your show? Or,
Next-
well, let's assume people are listening to this weekly, late. When could they, in theory, just catch a show anytime?
Sure, it happens twice a month, usually the first and third Wednesday at 10:30 p.m. You can check out more information on my Facebook page, Late Night with Lanny, or facebook.com/Late Night with Lanny. Otherwise, my Twitter handle, I always promote all the new shows coming up, and that's at Lanny Lee, LANILEE 223.
Great.
Okay.
Dan, what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter is @ThenDanSays. I almost exclusively tweet about wrestling now. I usually live tweet Monday Night Raw if you're curious about what I have to say about it.
My Twitter is @JackieNoBreaks. I'm getting a lot better from like 6 months ago using my Twitter. I don't think I have any theme. I don't watch any specific show and live tweet. I kind of just I tweet when I poop.
That's a theme.
Poopin' tweets from
Yeah,
Jack.
but I don't talk about it. I feel like it's nobody needs to know.
No,
no
they're
on
not.
toilet paper. Hashtag update. I don't know.
We're low on toilet paper. #update.
I'm
Lanny,
gonna tweet that right now. Actually,
Lanny, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll have you back, definitely. And my name is Dan.
my name is Jack, and we'll see you in another decade.